All right, everyone, welcome to the. We'll be taking a look at some major stories today. Do not forget the fact the Kanu is still in the court. The court has this request by his legal team in regards to his bail. Some of these are issues that are still controversial, as over the weekend, the presidential candidates of Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, reacted, appealing for the federal government to release Nnamdi Kanu. All of these will be what we'll be discussing on the program today on the decks. But right now, we'll go on a quick break, and once we return, we'll dive into the many issues here on the program. All right, everyone, many thanks for staying with us here on the decks. Let's begin with the fact that court has dismissed Nnamdi Kanu's $1 billion suit against the federal government. And in regards to the fact that a lot of elders and stakeholders of the Southeast are pressing the demand for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. About my guest, James Ezemai, public affairs analyst, is live here on the program to add voice to the conversations, especially on this issue. Good to have you join us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having the time to be here. Let's take a look. You are Southeast by birth, and by also the fact that this also concerns region. From Muhammad Buhari's administration, we've had this controversy with Nnamdi Kanu. Federal arguing that he's the one pioneering and of course the architect of the many security challenges we are having at the region. To you, would this release put a stop to these issues? Joining your voice with that of Mr. Peter Obi to demand for his release.
That and understand the issue, that have a proper understanding of the issues surrounding this this particular case, will know that what most people are about, they are something that things we can easily kind of understand and deal with. And what is it about? The security situation in the Southeast became a thing of concern after Nnamdi Kanu was arrested and detained. So Nnamdi Kanu as a person, one may not like his own style, may not like his style, but one thing that is sure is that his arrest and detention is causing a lot of issues.
But let's get to have some other concerns to versions on the program. Do stay with us. Many thanks everyone for still staying with us on the program. We of course are giving a focus on more the fact that over the weekend there have been a lot of demand and agitation for the final release of Nnamdi Kanu, even some lawmakers, went to Muhammadu Buhari's in Katsina State to bring in the former president to part of these negotiation with the federal government. But concern about insecurity in the southeast is what is really at the front burner. So we're trying to see how we can actually create a balance for federal government. There have also been a demand by Kanu to request for out-of-court settlement. All of this is what we are still putting our eyes on to see what will be the result at the end of the day. Ezema, you've caused up, we're trying to give us the bullet point on what it means for insecurity in the southeast.
Yeah.
Get us further to that convention.
Yeah, we're saying that, look, the southeast became volatile the moment Nnamdi Kanu was arrested and detained. And it is something that everybody who understands the situation around the southeast will attest to that. Because some people who are criminals within the zone, they are using Nnamdi Kanu's detention to, perpetrate certain kind of crime. So they are perpetrating these crimes because the person who controls the people that are under his, whether they were proscribed or not, is not the issue now. The issue now is how do we solve the security problem in the southeast? And one of the major ways to solve the problem is by the federal government reaching an agreement with him and releasing him to be able to calm the situation in the southeast, because the situation keeps getting out of hand, because some people are fighting, thinking that they are fighting for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. But in the long run, you will discover that most of the people who are carrying out all these killings and all the things in the southeast are just common criminals who are using the IBOB cover to carry out their, their nefarious activities in the east. So it is better for everyone who loves that region to talk about how do we solve the problem, and how do we solve it can only start with the release of Nnamdi Kanu. If they release him, they can now say, okay, let us see. If it is about probably having a kind of an MOU on the issue, fine. The federal government, when they want to do their thing, they know how to do it. So it is not out of place to say that his release is fundamental, and if we have to have a lasting peace in the region.
I mean, let's talk about the economy. From your analysis, ever since Nnamdi was returned, there's been this outbreak of sit at home on Monday.
Exactly.
Would you really say these are affected? It has created a lot of impact in the economy of the southeastern part of this country.
There's no doubt about that. It has created a lot of.
All governors are using that to cover themselves away from delivering the dividends to the people.
I don't think so. It is obvious. Despite that, some of the governors in the southeast are not doing well. Yes, we understand that. Just like what is happening in the southeast among the governors is not different from what is happening in other regions. So most of the governors are not doing very well. Good and fine. But this particular case is that the southeast region is having a serious issue, because this man is detained. He cannot be held accountable for what is happening outside, because some people are now saying, like the other person in Finland, Simon Ekpa, is claiming that he's fighting for Nnamdi Kanu. He's claiming that he's fighting for Biafra. He's claiming that he's fighting. And when Nnamdi Kanu was around, he was not in the picture of the activities of the group. So it is something that the federal government has to reconsider their position and see what should be done for them to settle this matter out of court. Because if the federal government wants to get this thing sorted out in a jiffy, they will do that. It's not something that anybody can say that the federal government doesn't know how to solve it. Even former President Muhammad Buhari, he just try to, go the thing by the, he didn't want to approach the issue for certain reasons, but all of them, they know that this issue can only be resolved, the security issues in Southeast can only be resolved if Nnamdi Kanu is freed, and they will be able to now have, these criminals will not have anything to hold on to say they are fighting and other. It was just like when Asari Dokubo was detained under President Obasanjo. That was when some groups like MEND came up, and Henry Oka, them and all those people to follow them. They were all the people that set up MEND at the time to fight for the release of Asari Dokubo. But at the end of the day, because once someone of that who is influential within a particular zone is arrested and detained that way, there are some people that will rise up and say they are fighting for the person's release. Meanwhile, they just want to use that as an excuse to carry out their own plans and their own activities. But that's just the same situation that is taking place in the Southeast. Once the Nnamdi Kanu is released, nobody will be fighting or sitting at home or saying that I want to sit at home, unless they don't want the stability of that region. Fine, let them continue to keep him in detention.
All right, so let's get another focus right here on the program. The issues from coming National Assembly, the Senate resumes the probe as AGF submit 30 trillion naira loan document. It is also the fact that a lot of actions by the National Assembly to retrieve back some of the stolen funds from the federal government back to the covers. But to what end do we really have, can we really say that we can really feel the impacts of, ever since this exercise started? We've had other National Assembly, the 8th National Assembly, the 9th National Assembly, and now the 10th National Assembly also trying to see how they can target back, some of those money stolen back to the covers of federal government, and also the issues of loan repayment and all of this. But they have also been granting several loans to, the president ever since Tinubu came about. To you, can we really strike a balance with our borrowing and also expenditure? Because when you look at what they are delivering, they are still asking of supplementary budget. But the question Nigerians are asking, can we really see what the previous budget have been, what project these have been utilized on? Because that's a concern.
You see, the problem is that in Nigeria today, we don't even know which budget that is being implemented. Right now, as we speak, the same National Assembly is talking about extending the implementation of 2023 budget. Now, you are extending the budget of last year. You are doing supplementary budget. You still have some. I don't understand how. It's just because the National Assembly has turned itself to, rather than a check and a balance to the federal government or to the executive, they are now just trying to do whatever the bidding of the executive is. It does not really make sense to be talking about implementing 2023 budget in 2024 when we already have a 2024 budget. So when are you going to start implementing 2024 budget? If you are extending the implementation of 2023 budget, when are you going to start implementing 2024 budget? By 2025? Or, okay, you remember in the days when Yaradua was there, by the 31st of December, Yaradua ordered every unspent money to be returned to the coffers of the federal government. That is how it's supposed to be. There's no business that runs an endless life cycle. You must have a time that you say, okay, this is a time for accounting. This is a time for us to account for the year. But now, as it were, there is no time to account for what the federal government is doing, because you are still spending money from 2023 budget in 2024. So if you know that there was still going to be implementation of 2023 budget, why are you passing a 2024 budget? You should have continued the implementation until when you finish the life cycle of that budget. Then you can now start implementing another budget. Well, today, every day you are hearing of implementation of they are presenting a supplementary budget. And all those supplementary budgets, they are things that that ordinarily you should have envisaged, and especially when they talk about subsidy is gone and all those stuff, there are certain things you should have envisaged, palliatives, cushioning effects, and things like that when they were planning for the year 2024. But none of that took place. Okay, now when it comes to issue of probe by the National Assembly, it is laughable, because in the history of Nigeria's National Assembly, I cannot put my hand on one probe that was conclusive. I cannot. I can't put my hand on one probe that is conclusive, because most of them, what they do is that they will just start a probe, and they make all the noise, they say they invited, sometimes the people they invited will not come and all that, and that's the end of it. How many times have they invited the NNPC GMD to come to the National Assembly? How many times? Did you, even when there is no presentation to, as against the allegations that are being made, at the end of the day, you will not hear about the probe anymore. That's the problem.
So are we not having more compromise at that level? Because sometimes you see how they are going on oversight function. For instance, the role of the legislator is to embark on an oversight. And several times, as you said, what the recommendations at the end of the oversight is something, very laughable. Because why do we send you to represent us and to also supervise what the constructions or the projects carried out by the federal government? At the end of the day, they have good reports given to these contractors. And at the end of 5 years, 10 years later on, the whole project is actually at a sad situation. So, to you, do you think that the oversight, there is a more to do regarding to oversight? Because sometimes we often hear stories like brown envelopes to members who are visiting some quarters and all of that. Ministers also paying rent for, the hotel bills, getting issues of accommodation, getting issues of some cash transfers and all of those things to them. So at the end of the day, they are happy to carry out the oversight. But the impact on the lives of Nigerians or the economy of this country is not working. To you, see how you can look at the issues of oversight function with regarding to some of their responsibility. Are they failing Nigerians on that?
You see, the truth of the matter is that there's no proper oversight. If there were proper oversight, Nigeria as a country and Nigerian economy will not be the same way that we find ourselves today. Because the National Assembly members, if they are doing what they are supposed to do, they should ask questions. The loans that were approved earlier or to the previous administration, how were they spent? Before you can come and start talking about another loan. Why were those loans spent? On what? You have to account for the loan that you have taken before you can now say, okay, let me take another loan for XYZ. But today, once the executive makes a request, is granted. The executive makes a request, is granted. No questions asked. So is that oversight? That's not an oversight. That is not checks and balancing. That is not the intent of a democratic election. So it's as if we are just practicing whatever we call it by ourselves, but not a democracy. So if in a democracy and there's a checks and balances, and you discover that these people who are supposed to redirect the executive, they are supposed to tell the executive, no, the place you are going, you can't go this way. Have they ever thought about the people in their constituencies? They don't. Because if they do, they should have been taking feedbacks to the federal government. When things are not going on well, it's not for you to tell me, oh, Nigerians, I know that Nigerians are suffering, and then you just talk about let Nigerians breathe and all those kind of stuff. These are just, we are just making a caricature of leadership. That's just the problem. Nigeria is not, there's no any probe that I have seen that have gone to the point that, it has been concluded by the National Assembly. So this one will not be an exception.
It will not be an exception. But let's move from that and see probably what Godswill Akpabio will get to do in this 10th Senate, because he promised Nigerians that the Senate will be a people's Senate. But from all indications, approval here and there, he's not actually what he promised Nigerians. But away from that, let's get to the fact that INEC are currently holding retreat for recs across the Edo-Ondo elections, the off-cycle election. And they are concerned about this off-cycle election. 2023, INEC had given a lot of promise to Nigerians, even when they came out and said it wasn't by law, they weren't compelled, it was a guideline. So to them, it didn't in any way was an offensive for them not to really follow the guideline to the letter. I'm talking of issues of beavers, I'm talking of other issues that were contained on the guidelines of that election. And right again now, they're putting election again before Nigerians, right now in Edo and Ondo states. They are concerned. When you look at what is already playing out in Edo State, you understand the fact that there are also expectations on there. But to you, do you feel Nigerians' confidence, is quite very strong and surmountable for this election as we get to proceed?
Obviously, the confidence of Nigerians is not like the confidence with which they approached the 2023 elections. No. Not until there is something that is done. Because INEC, as an umpire, have not convinced Nigerians that they can do what they said they would do. Because with what happened in during the presidential election, and then the court judgment that followed, for the court to say that INEC's guideline is not binding on the parties, then anybody can just say that whatever INEC says does not matter. I will choose to do whatever I like to do. I know that a time will come when the Supreme Court will right some of those wrongs in their judgments, because they will one day, come back and look at the issues and then decide to
and all the technicalities
and all the technicalities and they will decide to correct themselves, so to say. So because if not, there will be chaos one of the days, because if you say that INEC guideline is not law, then what is it? If it is not law, what is it? Because the law empowers INEC to regulate elections. And if it empowers INEC to regulate elections and you say that the regulatory guidelines for that election is not binding, then what is the use of the INEC? It's a big problem. So it is the courts created problem. INEC itself created problem because INEC decided not to follow what they said. I remember that when they were talking about electronic transmission of results, they were, in fact, it was a serious issue at the National Assembly when INEC was to defend the electronic transmission of results, when they didn't want even to include it in the law. But INEC first said, no, even if there is no network, this thing, we can do it. But at the end of the day, what did we see? But one thing you will know about INEC conducted election is that most off-cycle elections, they are not always contentious like the presidential elections that we had. They have always done well in off-cycle elections because some of those state elections are not, interests are not so much like as in the presidential and other national elections. But I believe that we can give them a chance, because we don't have any choice anyway. We have to give them a chance and try to look at how they conduct the election. But I believe that INEC will do a nice job as far as these off-cycle elections are concerned. But they did not do well, and the courts themselves did not also do well in the 2023 elections.
They're also concerned about the fact that INEC are pushing blame to political parties, that several times the politicians are ridiculing the commission. Issues of primaries, conducting parallel primaries just to be able to have a card to file a candidate. issues of petitioning of the commission at the end of primaries, dragging the commissions at the end of elections, and all of those. Do you feel that there is what INEC are missing out? Because we would have probably they are also picturing the fact that INEC are not doing the right thing. So the political parties are also standing to see how they can also, be distracting the process. Do you feel that them pushing a lot of blame to political parties is right? On the other hand, how can we begin to address these issues of a lot of pressure on the judiciary? Because at the end of the day, it seems the judiciary is at the receiving end. Every party are running to court. Every candidate who couldn't win primaries is running to court. At the end of the day of the election, people are dragging for tribunal and all of those things. A lot of distractions along the chain. To you, how can we begin to correct these measures?
You see, it's a very simple matter. To correct these anomalies, INEC have to invoke its regulatory powers. Until INEC begins to exercise its regulatory powers, there is nothing that will work. Because INEC is also a regulator. And the courts that were giving judgment that they are whatever their guidelines are, that it does not matter or it does not count, or it's not binding. It's just they created more problems for INEC. INEC is already not exercising its regulatory power enough. And then these judgments have also tied INEC's hand backward. So it is a problem to both the electoral umpire and to the political parties, because the political parties will now start to do things anyhow they like it, anyhow they want it, knowing fully well that, oh, the court said, the Supreme Court ruled, and then that is it. So they will go back to the ways of politicians in Nigeria. You know what they do? They will always find their way, and find their way around any issues that has to do with the law. They will find a way to circumvent and then get whatever they want to do done. So, but I pray that INEC will start to exercise their regulatory powers, because that is the only way out. If until INEC starts exercising their regulatory powers, they will not be able to conduct a free, fair, credible elections.
A lot of concerns right there, and our eyes are quite, looking at Edo and Ondo State for the off-cycle elections. Looking forward to see a beautiful job by INEC in respect to that elections, because it also determines the next elections in Nigeria. But that's where we're closing the curtains right here on the program. The Dyson, of course, many thanks, James Ezema, public affairs analyst, for finding time to join us on the program and your analysis.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, we'll see you again tomorrow right here on Global Television, where we'll take a look at all the major talking points. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Rikan Michael.